All right, we all see the comments on mass media, on social media, in the YouTube comments. You guys think the market's gonna crash. And let's talk about the Tampa Bay market, just a comparison over the past 6 years, and see what you guys think after this. So there's this kind of common, simple math that realtors do. Maybe we're not very good at math. Also, yeah, we are a team of realtors if you're interested in reaching out. But if there is 6 months of inventory on the market, then we say it's a balanced market. If it shifts differently than that one way or the other, it's buyer or seller market. So a seller market would mean there's less inventory on the market, meaning when you put your house out there, buyers just don't have a lot to choose from, so they have to make decisions really fast. They end up paying more, they end up giving better terms. When there's a lot of houses out there, buyers have a lot more choices, so they can be more aggressive with their negotiations. And we're in a kind of unique market right now. Based on the numbers, we're actually still in a seller's market, but it's not feeling like that at all. There are some pockets where it feels balanced, but most of the pockets feel like it's a bit more of a buyer's market. And I have some specific client stories to tell about these so you can gather a lot of this qualitative and quantitative information and decipher for yourself. Obviously, a lot of markets, and especially the Tampa market, experienced a massive seller's market really from 2020 all the way through 2024. Toward mid to the end of 2024, it really started to slow down quite a bit, especially with big hurricanes, Hurricane Helene, Hurricane Milton hitting the Tampa area. The housing market really stopped for a month, then it started to pick back up. And in general, 2023 and 2024 were actually really slow markets across the entire country. The slowest real estate markets in the past 30 years occurred in 23 and 24. And the way they do this math is just exactly how many transactions happened. Transactions were lower then than they have been in the past 30 years. And the reality though is our population has grown, our housing supply has grown. So that's even more impactful than it would seem. But when we go back prior to 2023, we had some record low interest rates. But we're gonna talk about interest rates a little bit compared to 2019 as well, because they were pretty low then as well. We're also going to look at price appreciation, county to county, and kind of what I expect to happen in the market here in the rest of 2025 and then into 2026. And before we get into the county by county comparison, I want to talk a little bit about affordability. Affordability really has two big factors: home prices and interest rates. Then jobs. Obviously, your ability to make money is a big factor on whether you can afford these other two things. The reason interest rates affect affordability so much is because when your interest rate doubles, the interest part of your mortgage doubles. If you've ever downloaded a mortgage calculator, I actually recommend Zillow's mortgage calculator, the app. I use that with clients all the time to run rough numbers. And you start changing prices and interest rate, you realize just how impactful that interest rate is. But the thing is, during all this appreciation, all this price growth from 2019 to 2025, interest rates were pretty low for a lot of that time, and they went down even while we were in the midst of this massive price growth. So it felt like it was kind of leveling out. But the biggest struggle right now for most people moving around is affordability. Do you give up your situation now? Maybe you have a low interest rate, maybe you bought at a lower price, but you don't have a lower interest rate. Do you give that up to go into this higher price, higher interest rate market? So let's start the comparison by looking at Hillsborough County. Hillsborough County is over 1 million people and is the main county that makes up Tampa. In June of 2019, the median sales price in Hillsborough County was $270,000. In June of 2025 right now, it is $425,000. It has gone up quite a bit. In 2020, when people started moving here like crazy, people were moving here like crazy before then. It's not like that was a new thing that people moved to Florida, but when they did, prices felt relatively low. And the narrative around it was Florida is this, affordable safe haven in so many ways. Obviously, we don't have state income tax, but home prices, property tax, all these things felt more affordable compared to a lot of states. Okay, the next pieces of data are more about the actual transactions on the open market that I want to talk about, and I'm going to make a couple correlations here. So new pending sales monthly, June 2019 was roughly 2,100 and June 2025 was roughly 1,700. So sales are still happening. People are still buying and selling homes, but on a slower monthly pace than they were in 2019. And 2019 was not this kind of crazy pandemic market. So that's why I like to look all the way back to that point. But in 2019, interest rates were pretty low. I actually refinanced a house in 2019. I remember I got like a 3.8% interest rate, and it felt really great to get that low of a rate. My current rate on this house is over 6%, and that felt good when I got that rate because rates were close to 7%. So even though 2019 makes sense to look back that far because it wasn't crazy, interest rates were still pretty low back then. And then for Hillsborough County, when we look at median days on market, in 2019, we were looking at 25 days on market, and right now we are looking at 45 days on market. So when someone lists their house, it takes an average of 45 days to get a contract. In 2019, it was an average of 25 days. And keep in mind, as a seller, if it takes that much longer, you're paying another mortgage payment, at least one more mortgage payment, so that your total take-home pay is reduced by whatever your mortgage payment is. And then when we compare months of supply in Hillsborough County, from 2019, we're at 2.7 months, and in 2025, we're looking at 4.2 months. That means if no new houses went on the market, it would take 4.2 months to sell all the houses that are listed right there. And that's just based on pace, like how many houses sell a month compared to how many are on the market right now. Now, of course, new houses go on the market and houses sell. And that kind of starts to offset, it kind of offsets every single month. Now, if more houses come on the market than sell every month, that number continues to grow. And if the opposite happens, that number starts to decrease. When we look at Pinellas County, the most densely populated county in the area, about 1 million people, it's the beaches, it's that whole area over there, St Petersburg, Clearwater, all the way up to Tarpon Springs. When we look at median prices in that area in 2019, $265, in 2025, $450, even bigger growth than Hillsborough County. When we look at new pending sales, $1,300 a month in 2019 and $1,100 per month in 2025. So just a similar kind of correlation. Home prices went up, average pending sales is trending down. And very similarly with median days on market being 30 days in 2019, 50 days in 2025, still a 20-day difference. And here's an even bigger disparity. In 2019, the months of supply in Pinellas County was 2.3 months, and right now it is 7.5 months. There's a lot of inventory sitting on the market in Pinellas County. And then finally in Pasco County, median price in 2019, right around $225,000, and right now right around $380,000. Pending sales in Pasco County on the same trajectory, about 1,000 new pending sales in the month of June 2019 and about 850 new pending sales in June 2025. When we look at median days on market, it's the exact same trend. It's a 20-day difference, 35 days to the past, 55 days to now. And when we look at months of supply, we're comparing 2 months to roughly 5 months now. So all the counties are kind of behaving the same. There's nothing that different among them, except really the months of supply in Pinellas County being so much higher right now. So across all these counties, we see inventory surging, we see a slower sales pace, and a lot of people from the consumer side, they see price reductions. They see Zillow, they see Realtor.com, they see these kind of things, or they see realtors talking about price reductions. And with our own sellers, we have to talk about price reductions all the time. That's not abnormal in any market. But the number you should really be thinking about is this house going to sell for more than it would have sold for last year? If the answer is yes, then prices are still going up. Say it's a $500,000 house that was sold last year and they have it listed for $550,000 now. Okay, that's a price difference of $50,000. If they have to lower the price by $25,000, that's going to look like a big price cut, but they're still up $25,000 on the potential value. So despite the slowdown, despite the inventory surge, despite the hurricanes, prices do seem pretty resilient here in the Tampa area. And next, we're going to talk about different price points because they're a lot more resilient in some price points than others and in certain areas than others. So we've all heard location being the most important thing in real estate, and it still holds pretty true. But for example, a client that I helped recently purchase a home in West Chase, a 3-bedroom house in a nice little community. Yeah, location ended up being very important to them, but because of the price point it fell in and because it needed a little bit of work, we were right around that $500,000 mark. We were able to negotiate pretty aggressively, getting a $20,000 reduction on the price, getting them to fix a bunch of little things for us, and getting to move the closing date really short. Those are things that were important to my client, and they felt like they were able to get the terms they wanted and even get a big price reduction. But let's go to lower price points for a minute. I had a listing recently, actually not too far away from me, a little 2-bedroom house with a really cool pool, really well done, kind of move-in ready house with some significant upgrades that maybe were over upgraded for the neighborhood even. We priced it really high at $325,000. There were nothing in this neighborhood has ever sold for over $300,000, and we were able to sell it for that price of $325,000. We had multiple offers. It appraised for a VA deal, 100% VA deal at that $325,000. But now, just because we had multiple offers didn't mean that we had multiple offers over asking price, or even that anyone was willing to go over asking price. We had multiple offers with different terms. That house that we're selling for $325,000 even is giving concessions. There's concessions going out to help the buyer with their closing costs. There's concessions going out to pay the buyer's agent commission. And we're having to be flexible. Even in a situation where it was a bit more competitive, it still has some give and take to it. Overall, in the next 6 months in this market, I think you're going to see a lot of really unique opportunities. If you have areas in the Tampa market you're really interested in and you want to focus on, I recommend falling in love with a couple specific areas, and I'm doing this with a lot of our clients right now. And then if you have the ability to wait for an opportunity, wait for an opportunity. And the opportunity you might be waiting for is just the house that you really want. You're waiting to see the one that you really, really like. And if you have the time to wait, if you have the ability to wait, this might be a market where you might want to wait a little bit. But if you're not in that place, it's still a market where there's a lot of opportunity. We approach deals a lot differently right now. We're very collaborative with the other agents as always, but it gets to be a lot more give and take than it was from 2020 to 2024. And in general, the rest of 2025 and 2026, the market is kind of recalibrating. Builders aren't speculating and building a bunch of homes. They're waiting to sell them before they actually build them. Sellers are having to be more realistic about how they price things and the terms they're willing to offer. And buyers get to be a bit more aggressive with how they make offers and how they approach situations. Another huge factor for the Tampa market is migration. In 2024, net migration to Florida was 80,000 people, compared to 2021, which was over 300,000 people. That's the net of people coming in and going out. We were growing so fast. Migration across the country was at an all-time high, and just now it's at an all-time low. This is people really stuck in their financial situation where the affordability conversation just doesn't make sense to spend all of a sudden double on housing. But the data overall suggests that Tampa is going to continue being a very strong market. Obviously, it's desirable for a lot of you guys for a lot of reasons, and very specific areas are going to continue to grow. Southeast down into Riverview, down into Parrish is going to continue to grow, and all of Pasco County is the growth projections have not slowed down at all. And those are still the main areas where the building is very active. Now, it's the higher end builders like Homes by West Bay that's not building speculative homes anymore. They're waiting until they have a contract, then they're choosing the model to put on the specific lot, and they're taking that route. But I actually think this is a more stable and healthy real estate market, and it makes the future a bit more predictable. Now, if rates go down a little bit, I think we'll see quite a bit more movement from buyers and from sellers. A lot of these sellers are held in their lower interest rate homes, and they don't want to sell there and then take on a higher interest rate. And I have a lot of local clients like that, past clients that would like to upsize or move out of a flood zone or downsize, and they don't want to leave that current situation because of the comfort and predictability of a really low payment. But a lot of them will still end up moving, and a lot of them are moving around the area and moving into the area. And if that is something you need help with, we would love to be your real estate choice. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. Thanks for coming by.